Hello everyone and welcome to Surrogacy Australia's webinar. I'm your host Anna Mackay and my co-host is Rachel. Rachel birthed a little girl Daisy as a surrogate in Adelaide in May 2020 for Kelly and Ben. Rachel and Ben had known each other since childhood, but it was actually Kelly's introduction post in the South Australian Surrogacy Facebook group in late 2020 that sparked Rachel's attention when she was looking to be a surrogate. So welcome Rachel and thank you for joining us tonight. So we've got Rachel here with us tonight and she shared some photos with us for social media and here on our webinar tonight. So tell me, Rachel, who's in this photo, this first one, and what was happening in this photo?
So that's me in the middle, obviously. That's my intended mother, Kelly, who's now just the mum. I call her my baby mama. And that's baby daddy, Ben. We were coming out of Repromed. I believe it was one of the pre-pregnancy appointments where we all had to go, and it was a whole thing. Yeah, I can't remember exactly what happened in this one, but yeah, we were definitely coming out of Repromed because I remember that street like the back of my hand now.
Yes, and so Repromed's our main clinic in Adelaide, and yes, I remember trying to get parking in all of those days. It can be a challenge, can't it? So yep. Lots of appointments together. The surrogacy is like that, isn't it? 100 steps it feels like to get through it all.
Yeah, and Ben and Kelly always made the effort to drive me down there, and we'd always have a good chat. Sometimes we'd get lunch or breakfast or whatever we were doing, and they would both try to come to every appointment.
Now, and I think that's really powerful, just that little snippet that you're saying there for people listening tonight, that it's something you do as a team, because it's this pregnancy is going to be their pregnancy as well as in yours. And so you want them to experience the whole journey. So is that something as a team you had sort of committed to in the planning, that they would try and come to as much as possible?
Yeah, they had quite flexible work options working for themselves. So it was always one or the other or both. Like they always made that effort. If one couldn't come, it was a really good reason. But yeah, they both always made the effort to try and be there to experience it and immerse themselves in what needed to happen and what I was going through, and to support. There was a few instances where like Ben took my 5-year-old because he was not at school at that time, and he would just take him for the morning while I went with Kelly to an appointment and stuff like that.
And again, getting to that point of, being comfortable and trusting other people with your kids and your kids feeling comfortable with them, that takes time to develop the trust in that relationship, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And, even just putting your child in a car with somebody else is a bit daunting sometimes. But yeah, we were definitely there quite early on, which was nice.
Wonderful. Oh, great example of a good team here. So clearly, lots is happening as a team in the surrogate dating to get to the point of being pregnant here and having a team photo. Was this a bit of a maternity team photo shoot?
Yeah. Kelly and I had our cute little matching dresses on there.
I thought they were matching, yes.
Yeah, which we also wore to the baby shower. And yeah, we really wanted to record this milestone, and I know that Kelly was very excited to get some photos with the belly. And yeah, it was really nice to just have those moments captured with all of us. And at the time I did not enjoy myself. I was hot and bothered and all of that, but I look back at this and it just makes me smile. My heart is very full.
Beautiful. Makes you glad you did it, even though pregnancy can be hot and uncomfortable, as you said.
Definitely. And
so we've got, your husband, partner, there in these photos, and your boys, and Ben's son too.
Yeah.
And so your kids, I'm trying to read the expressions on their faces in this one, but did they get on board with the pregnancy and what mum was doing for their friends?
My 7-year-old, who's on my husband's shoulder there, he could not care less. He was not worried. He was not overly interested. Whereas my 5-year-old, who's on my hip there, he was there. Every night he would say goodnight to Daisy in my belly. every night when we were at the birthing house, he was making sure that she was okay. Anytime she cried, he would go check on her. And even now, he's still very involved, wants to see photos and wants to see her at any opportunity that he can. But he knows that she lives there, and it's a little bit tricky now to see her. But yeah, we try to facilitate that relationship as much as possible.
Tricky in terms of just everybody's busy with different lives and schedules. Is that what you mean?
Yep. Yeah, he's at school now as well. So yeah, school and work, and we all want to see everybody at the catch-ups, which doesn't always work. Sometimes it's just Kelly and Daisy and I. Sometimes it's all of us. But yeah, we just try to slot it in as much as possible.
Yeah. And that's another great reminder that surrogacy is about it's about the family involved. So it would be really hard if the contact just stopped post-birth, wouldn't it? So, but speaking of birth, hey, beautiful photo here, and I think I'll get you to talk us through it, because you said the birthing house, and I think this is so it's a home birth. I know a couple of us in Adelaide had some, but it wasn't in your home, is that right? As a team, you made a decision about where that was going to be. So talk us through that.
Yeah, so we live 20 minutes from each other, and so geographically that was fine, but both of our houses are small. They can't hold two families. So Kelly found this beautiful house right near the beach that was 5 minutes from their house, 15 minutes from our house. We booked it for a month around the due date, so from 37 to 41 weeks. Right. Because both of my boys came, one was 37 and 4, one was 39 and 1. Oh. So we sort of expected earlier. So we spent Easter there all together. We did, the Easter egg hunt and everything, and we got so many photos, and we went down to the beach and walks, and there was a really nice scrublands nearby. And yeah, it was basically like two houses stacked on top of each other, but with one kitchen.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So we made the decision to all go there. Kelly found this house. We all went there and spent as much time as possible there. And then we had spent the weekend there, and Sunday night was when we went back, because we had gone down to the beach. Ben went for a surf with one of his friends, and then we all went home. And yeah, Sunday night we called him back up and said, get back to the house. We're ready to go.
Wow. And so, yeah, so when you look at this photo, what emotions do you feel looking back on this?
Oh, just joy and relief, and I just
pride.
I was definitely pride. I was definitely bouncing off of Kelly's emotions as well. She was just a blubbering mess, just completely melting into love with this little baby.
Yeah, you made her a mum.
Yeah, and she's doing very damn good at it too.
Wonderful. Yes, we've had her on as in a trio webinar where she induced lactation. So she was able to, for those listening, bring milk into her body, even though her body had not been pregnant at birth. That could be a good opportunity there to mention milk. What did you do with your own breast milk?
So because Kelly was very much had a full supply by the time Daisy was born, because she induced at 28 weeks. So she had a lot of build up time and really committed to doing that. I started pumping probably the next morning, I think it was. Daisy was born at 10:30 at night, so we didn't get to bed until about 1:30. And then I started pumping, and Kelly and Ben took that first week milk home, the really nice golden dark yellow stuff. And then I kept pumping. I donated to another surrogacy team. Wow. Who had a baby not long after. And then I just kept donating milk. I pumped for 12 weeks after Daisy was born, and donated absolutely everything. I made breast milk soap, and that was a really nice way for me to honor that journey and to get something back from that. Like we're still using it now she's almost, well, she's 10 months old now. So
Wow.
yeah, it's really nice to have that reminder. And yeah, it's been very humbling to get to do that as well, like to have the opportunity and the means and the time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good time. I think I'm just imagining people who are new to surrogacy hearing this story. You say you're humbled, but like that's a massive effort to go through, because somebody that pumped for 9 weeks, I know you have to do it regularly around the clock and fit that in with drop-offs for kids and pickups and cooking dinner and breakfasts and sterilizing equipment and things. So well done to you. That's a mammoth effort, but it's clearly something that else you wanted to do to help your body in recovery and to continue to contribute. So well done.
Yeah, I took my pump everywhere. We went camping and I would take it with me there, and we'd go home with a fridge full of milk in the car, which was very funny, but it just, Brad really supported me in that as well, even though he couldn't fit ice cream in the freezer.
Because there's so much with wife's breast milk.
Yeah. Yep.
Amazing. And so, yes, partners are often the unsung heroes in this here. And so we've got 2 photos here now, some of catch-ups, but I know what's happening in this photo, but other people may not. Looks like some gardening going on here, but what's actually happening?
So because we had a home birth and everything, we got to keep everything that came out. So this was us planting the placenta. I've got my 5-year-old, my 7-year-old. Brad is holding Daisy, my husband. And then Kelly and I are putting some soil in. We planted the placenta, and then we popped some daisy flowers over the top as well. So, and they're still sitting on their back deck.
So yeah, their house or your house?
At their house, yeah.
Oh, and again, I love seeing, Brad in the background there. He's holding surrogate bub. This is just a sign of this modern family that's been created here.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And then I think one of our last photos here is around Christmas time, is it? When she was however many months old?
6 Yeah, so yeah, she was
7-ish?
Doing the math, 7.5 months old, I think, 6.5 months old.
First Christmas?
Yeah, first Christmas. So we went to the last Christmas with them as well, and no, we didn't see them before that. So yeah, last year's Christmas was Daisy's first, and we got invited to the previous Christmas as well, when we were pregnant, which was really nice. Yeah, all the family was there. Kelly's family usually do like a set day, so we get invited to that, and it's really nice to see everyone getting to spoil her, and the grandparents and aunties and uncles and cousins and everybody who are just completely in love with this tiny little thing. And yeah, it was just really, really nice to sit in the corner and watch everybody getting so excited and giving her all these beautiful gifts and
doting over her.
Yeah, and they spoiled my boys too. Like we always felt like we were welcome and a part of the family.
And I think this is a great example of what surrogacy can look like here in Australia. It's not just the team that you do, it's the extended families, as you're saying, and the catch-ups continue. What was the time frame roughly from when, because in theory they were sort of strangers, but they weren't. You ended up already knowing them before, but you clearly went out of your way to go, yeah, I want to be a surrogate, so I'm going to start looking into this. From when you made that first connection to birth, do you remember how long that time frame was?
So Daisy was born in May 2022, and I found Kelly on the Surrogacy in South Australia Facebook page in, I believe it was October of 2020.
Yep.
And then I went into, they have 2 surf shops, and I went into one of them, and Ben was working, and I said hello, and yeah, it just sort of, he gave me his phone number because he's not on social media.
Yep.
So and then I said, oh, can I message Kelly? Is that okay?
So you went home that night to your husband and said, I got a man's phone number today.
Yes. And then I said, oh, it's this person. And yeah, Ben and myself and my husband all went to the same school. So we all already knew each other anyway.
Yep. So just picked it up again.
Yeah, it was very nice having that, base foundation of knowing somebody's family and all that as well.
A bit like a background check in some ways, a bit of a credibility check, already knowing where they come from, so to speak.
Yeah, like I remember when Ben's son Rylan was a baby and I would hold him. So it was very, very big throwback. But yeah, I think Kelly's story really, really resonated with me because my sister has MRKH as well.
Right.
And when I think I was 8 or 9, and we found out that she had this diagnosis, we all said to her, "Oh, we'll have a baby for you. If you ever need it, that's fine. We'll do it." But she's very happy dog mum. She's got 2 stepkids, and she's, I don't think, got a baby on the cards anytime soon. So I thought, I'll put my feelers out. I'm ready to do it. And yeah, Kelly's literally a month younger than I am. And just
similar.
Yeah, if I was 27 and being told that I couldn't have a baby when I really wanted to, I would do everything in my power to make it happen. So
definitely. And so for those listening that don't know, MRKH means they were born without a uterus. So it means that they often still have ovaries that work and can create eggs, but nowhere to grow it. Just how bodies work sometimes, isn't it? Crazy stuff.
Yeah.
So that was about a 1.5 year journey for you guys. So I'd say that was fairly quick, or just, at the lower end of the range. So it clearly worked first embryo transfer then?
Yep. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm very fertile.
Yes, your body's like, yep, I know what I'm doing. Let's go again.
Yeah.
And then we were talking before about what catch-ups look like post-birth, and you mentioned that you'd had one recently. So because another classic thing is, does the surrogate ever see surrobub on their own? And how to, even though you grew baby on their own, I know for certain teams that doesn't necessarily happen. And obviously it might be something you chat about as a team. So was that something you discussed, and then you had a catch up recently where you had Daisy on her own?
So after Daisy was born, there was, very excited family members that all wanted to jump in. And I didn't express that I wanted to babysit. I just kind of assumed, which was a bit silly, because, assuming is not a good thing. Yeah. And I found out that Daisy had been babysat by a family member, which I sort of let go because it was a rite of passage for that person to get to do that first. And I said, hey, can I please be the next one? Otherwise I'll be a bit sad about it. But, if you say no, it's fine. And then it got to Christmas last year, and they had their work Christmas party, and they said, hey, we need someone to take care of her. This is where we're going, blah, blah, blah. This is the time. So we actually got her for the evening, which was very cool.
Yeah.
And it was really nice for my 5-year-old to get to sit with her and sing her songs and all that. And then she went to bed in her cot at our house, and they picked her up about midnight. Yep, party animals.
Yeah.
And then a couple of weekends ago, they wanted to go see the new Avatar movie with their now 12-year-old son, and they asked us if we could babysit her, and of course we said yes, we're happy to do that. And then they brought her around. She had a nap here, and once again she was very happy. She was yelling at the dog and eating everything and all of that. And then other catch-ups that we've had have also been, we go camping quite frequently together. That's just the kind of people we are. So we'll get a full weekend of hanging out and all of that. So
well, there's some great stories to share to people to go, wow, this is what it could look like. And that might not be what it is for every team, but it's great to hear some different examples, and particularly going away together too, spending those extended periods of time. I suppose that's what it really is about, isn't it? You should be friends, and that even if there hadn't been a baby, these are people that you enjoy their company and enjoy hanging out with, I assume.
Yeah, we've all got a lot of very similar interests, and apart from the surfing thing, Brad and I can't really surf, but Ben and Kelly have told us they will teach us when we're ready. And yeah, my 7-year-old's really run with that as well. He wants to learn. But yeah, we're all very outdoorsy kind of people. We've got very similar hobbies. And yeah, we actually, when we were doing the blood tests pre-pregnancy to track ovulation, we went to a Fall Drive Park, and I had to get a blood test on the way up because that's just the day that they told me. So we planned this trip, and yeah, it was good fun though.
And that's it, fitting surrogacy into the rest of your life and the adventures that you go on together. So it sounds like, yeah, you guys are a great team with the similarities there. So good work, team. Well done. During your journey, there's always some ups and downs for each team. Is there anything that you found a bit of a challenge that, you know, could be worth mentioning to pass on to others listening?
At the beginning of our journey, before we did much counselling or anything like that, we obviously read all the material that we could online. We went into it with a 4 trimesters plan. So one, like the first trimester, second, third, and then fourth after birth. And we had a list of things that we would do and things that like Ben and Kelly could help with. One thing that we found though was a lot of it either wasn't needed or it just sort of fell to the wayside. But I tried really hard to remember what I needed, and I would pitch to them, hey, like, you know, we need some more meals in the freezer because I'm having trouble standing and cooking. It's getting a bit tricky. And Kelly would rock up with a big cooler bag full of all sorts of yummy treats. She'd gotten a Thermomix from her mother, which was very handy.
Yeah.
And yeah, like there was a few instances where I just said, oh, can you go pick up my son from school? I feel like I'm going to vomit. So they would go do that. And yeah, I think the response was great. Anytime I asked for anything, nothing was too hard. They would always either do it within the next hour or two, or, you know, Kelly would say, I'll drop past, you know, in 2 days' time with meals or stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, well done, team. And I guess some advantages there, living locally to each other would be much harder if it was a long distance or interstate team.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you have to have that foresight as well of, you know, pregnancy does take a toll on everything. You know, it can make it hard to walk. It can make it hard to clean, cook, even working. I had to stop working. There was no option for light duties. So, yeah.
Yeah, so it does. And you're always older each time you're pregnant. So it's always harder on your body each time, isn't it there?
Yeah.
And so although you said that, you know, everything was forthcoming, I bet as a fellow surrogate, it's still sometimes really hard to ask for help, isn't it? Because you're conscious of, you know, this on your friends in terms of their time and their money too. And, you know, we're independent women who can run our own household. It can still be really hard sometimes to ask for help. Did you find that?
Yeah, definitely.
Better at it?
Yeah. I think once I sort of knew that a lot of it wouldn't be met with backlash or, well, not even backlash, more or less attitude. Like sometimes people respond with like, oh, okay then.
It's a chore.
Once I knew that wasn't going to be the case, I was a bit more forthcoming with what I needed. And Brad was always there. Like my husband would always back me up or just, you know, subtly mention something. And yeah, Ben and Kelly always picked that up if they could. And yeah, they were very willing participants, which was great.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you guys, had a lot you did well in the lead up in the talking and having a bit of a plan and maybe not all the plan got action, but at least you had the plan.
Yeah, that was it. It was good to know that those things were already in their heads of what I may or may not need. Like Ben had seen his previous partner go through a pregnancy and birth and everything. So yeah, it was good to have that baseline, and then we sort of went up or down from there.
Yeah, good stuff. Was there any particular support that you found was helpful? I guess what I'm thinking of is, you know, we've met through the South Australian Facebook group, and then there's a surrogate only group. Was it helpful knowing some of the journeys of other surrogates, or was it some of a hindrance in hearing some of how other journeys went that could be disasters?
I think one of the main things that I took from the surrogate only page was a lot of people didn't like to share their successful journeys because it's sort of, I guess they felt that it kind of rubbed it in the face of people that weren't doing so well. But once I sort of realized that not every journey gets shared as well, it was good to see what other surrogates went through, how they dealt with it, and to think, oh, maybe I could do that a bit differently, or I would do the exact same thing. And then also things like the emotions and stuff like that. Like, it was very different to my own children, because you go into it with your spouse having a baby, you know, you live with them full time, you know that you're going to have this baby after the pregnancy as well. So it's a really good motivating factor for getting through it fine. But when you essentially have this other couple, it gets a bit muddled, and then you know the baby's still not going to be here later, so it can sometimes build a bit of I guess not really resentment, but tricky situations where you just get tired, and then you go, why did I do this? But then you talk to other surrogates and they say, oh, that's normal, you know, you'll get past that and then it will be beautiful again. And it always was.
Yeah, but there were still hard days. I remember, my own pregnancy too. Thinking, like, I'm not expanding my own family. What? Like, I know I signed up for this, but I'm having a really hard day. So yeah. So yeah, that's the realities of it, aren't there? That it's not all rainbows all of the time. But as you say, now that you've sort of, 10 months past it, I suppose those days, balance out, don't they, with the good days and the bad.
Oh, definitely. And sometimes I would say to Kelly, like, oh, I'm so tired and I'm just, not feeling great. And then she would just, I don't know, she always had this way of sending me something really beautiful, like a picture of a baby clothing item. And I would be like, oh, that's why I'm doing it. She bought these tiny little socks and that's the reason that we're here.
Yeah. Yeah. Good team there. We've had one question typed in the chat section. And so the question is, how was your experience with Repromed?
I really liked my doctor was an obstetrician gynecologist, and I really liked her. She was very thorough.
Dr. Hillary?
No.
Oh, no, you had another one. Yep.
I had Dr. Bradbury.
Cool. Oh, yep.
Yeah. She also practices out of Burnside, I believe.
Okay.
And yeah, she was great, very thorough, very to the point. Like, she didn't mess around. Any tests or anything that I needed were usually done in quite a timely fashion. Communication within Repromed itself was not fantastic. Occasionally things would get missed, or I know that some paperwork that was very important I think it was Ben and Kelly had to sign it. They had to go in when we were meant to be doing our first transfer that month. And so they had to go in and finalize all this extra paperwork that we didn't even know about so that we could get that going. And then, yeah, I think just the general, we would call and then we would get a call back, and then we would call and get a call back, and nobody was really giving each other the right information. So yeah, I think there's a bit lacking there, and I'm hoping that now that there's another clinic that does surrogacy in South Australia, that they might be a bit more competitive.
Lift their game a little. And I think from what I've heard, there are similarities like that across Australia. It's often the admin, the doctors themselves might be great and the nurses, but it's all that follow-up. You often have to be on their case, and the project managers or the IPs do. So yes, I think that can be a common challenge. So I'm glad to hear the doctor was good. That's good feedback.
Yeah.
I've had somebody type in a question here, anonymous, that says, why is the partner of the surrogate required to be named on the birth certificate when there's no engagement with the process of conception?
In South Australia, you don't actually have to put the partner on the birth certificate, but we did have to put in the birth certificate application that the baby was donor conceived. And Ben was the donor, even though Kelly was also the donor, because it was completely their embryo. But it really messes with the parentage order, I'm pretty sure. So if you put on the birth certificate like the surrogate's name and then the intended father's name, then that baby is already the intended father's baby. So getting the parentage order pushed through the court, they'll go, oh, this baby's already yours. Why does it need to be this person's as well? And then that will really just put a big halt on all your stuff with your lawyers and everything.
Yes. So it's totally normal that people are nervous about this bit at the beginning, because I think every team questions it. But your lawyers and counsellors will explain that all to you as a team, that, the partner, and well, in most states goes on in the first one. And so the reason for that is to transfer it from the surrogate to the intended parents. It's just part of the process that we have here in Australia. And that's how it is. And it's probably going to stay, at least in that some version of that. So it's okay to be worried about that anonymous at the beginning. I hope that's helped to answer the question there. Rachel, sort of coming to an end here, just maybe last couple of ones. So if we had some surrogates with us tonight, they're pretty much brand new, what advice would you give them?
Don't dive in head first into a relationship with IPs.
Yeah.
It is a-okay to just casually chat with people. You can talk to intended parents without having any intention of being their surrogate. Talk to other surrogates and learn from their experiences. I learned a heck of a lot from other surrogates in terms of the do's and don'ts, and also my biggest one would also be take care of your mental health and yourself first. That is, if you're on the fence about it because you're not feeling mentally all there, then do that first. Get yourself to a point where you're emotionally healthy and you're feeling secure and stable in yourself, and then pursue this, because it can do a number on you and you don't want to already be fragile before you even go in.
Great advice there. Yeah, thank you. That's good. Another anonymous question has typed in, while you were not working, did the IPs cover your lost income or just the expenses you were incurring?
So I stopped working at about 30 weeks, and then I had done the application to get the paid parental leave from Centrelink. So during the time between me finishing work and me giving birth,
yes,
having the baby, that's what I meant to say. My IPs covered my average wage for that time. I don't think we included super, but I wasn't earning very much anyway. I was only working casual hours, but they were set hours, so we just sort of worked out the average, and they paid that into my account using the description of like wages, and then obviously everything went into court for the parentage order anyway. So if there was any red flags, they would have picked that up. And yeah.
Yes, and so that's a really good point. Surrogates can't be out of pocket, and so you need to talk as a team about how that's going to happen. You wouldn't be in that situation if it wasn't for that pregnancy. It's not for expanding your own family, so it wasn't a cost that you guys have to cover, and so it needs to be done as a team. And talking money can be awkward, but it sounds like you guys had a plan there of how it was going to be done, and because that's the transactional part of it sometimes too, and that feels a bit yucky. So
yeah,
good plan.
Yeah, it always felt a little bit dirty, but when I offered to Ben and Kelly as well, we offered to them, and then we decided to go out for dinner because our kids weren't there. And on the way to the dinner, Kelly had set up an extra bank card that she had for me, and she gave it to me that night and said, "Here you go, like it's ready to go. It's got money on it. It's all ready for you to go." And that was the best thing, was having my own bank card. I would buy weird medicated creams that I would need and stuff like that, and I didn't have to say, "Hey, I need $20 for stretch mark cream" or something like that. Like it wasn't weird, it wasn't awkward. I kept all the receipts, and she just made sure that money was available to me so I could do and buy anything that I needed to do.
Yeah, And there's a lot of trust there as a team, because they're trusting you to grow their baby. They're going to trust that you're not going to tap a holiday to Hawaii on that card.
Yeah.
Because they're your friends and you know how much it's cost them. You don't want it to cost them any more, but at the same time, not having to ask for that money and then think about, oh, should I just carry that cost myself? Yep, that was what our team had to. A separate card you can just tap for the maternity clothes or the food or the creams that you need. Sounds like that was a good way to go.
Yeah, and any big ticket items that I needed, like when Kelly started producing milk, she was taking breastfeeding vitamins, and I said, oh, hey, buy me some too, like pregnancy vitamins and all that.
Yes.
Yeah, and any massages or anything like that I felt like I needed, I could just go and do that without feeling like a watched child.
Yes, it's like asking for pocket money from mum and dad, isn't it?
Yep. Yeah.
Or dad and dad, depending who you're caring for. So, yeah, it's a funny feeling. Yeah. So cool. Yeah, that's some good advice there. Any last bit of wisdom from your own team or something you'd like to add?
One of the biggest things is obviously the unsung heroes, being the family of the surrogate. My boys put up with my wailing on the couch and being tired and not being able to do. We're quite an active family, so I wasn't able to do a lot of things with them, which was great because Ben and Kelly picked up a lot of the slack in that department, which was comforting. Just talking, communication is one of the biggest things. Even if you feel a bit weird or it's a bit personal, usually your intended parents are trying to do the best thing by you as well, because you're trying to do the best thing by them, by helping them grow this, amazing little person. And yeah.
That's probably good advice for most relationships, isn't it? Keep talking. Don't let things simmer for too long. Bring it to the table. And because it's sort of 4 adults often coming together to create this one child, that's unusual. So there's 4 different personalities going on there. And yeah, that can be tricky, but it can be amazing, I think, when you guys get it right. And I reckon you guys did.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I think I'll sum that up and I'll thank everyone for joining us tonight. We hope you found it useful. My next webinar in 2 weeks' time will have more of an IP focus and an IP co-host. I'll say if you've still got lots of unanswered questions or would like them answered privately, you might consider joining SAS to be connected with a mentor to have them answered in that one-on-one setting. I like to say, let's change the world one conversation at a time so we can educate more people about how surrogacy works in Australia, because it can be very lonely and overwhelming in the beginning, but there's plenty of support in the village if you go looking for it. And as the saying goes, it takes a village to raise a child. And in the case of surrogacy, it takes a village to make a child. So welcome to the village, everyone. Thank you for joining me, Rachel.
Thank you for having me.
And good night, everyone. Thanks for joining us.